Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Crime Centric. This being a show where we talk about crime dramas that I watch. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about Season 3, Episode 16 of The Equalizer. A lot of really interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. Well, first and foremost, it's never a good thing when Fisk comes to Rob for help. I mean, the fact is still calling her mall cop. He just won't let up. She literally told him, stop calling me that. And even on the end of the episode, still, most of the way through the episode, he still ended up calling her mall cop. But yeah, he has a mission for her, which you're like, yeah, the guy, Rob hasn't learned her lesson yet. Because this guy, the moment you met him, it was under duplicitous means. And every other time, it's the same thing. And just... it also always ends with, yeah, he comes through somewhat in the end, but like he'll string you along when it's all said and done. It always kind of it's kind of like, yeah, you got things done, but it was always going to be messy and just kind of the most like jacked up CIA way possible. So there's that element to it. So this particular mission, he wants Rob to track down a former MI6 agent, Rick, which the way Rob was talking about him, I was like, do they have history? Oh yeah, they have history. So there was kind of something sparking between them, which it seems like wasn't even that long ago, because what happened between them was like 3 years ago. But basically they were meant to, both of them, because they didn't know each other. She figured out early on that he was an MI6 agent. He never figured out she was a CIA agent until after the fact. But they were both meant to recruit a arms dealer named Diego. But Rick ended up killing him, but no one really knows why. And because of it, the MI6 disemboweled him, so he's been a ghost out in the cold, which is Fisk's point that, hey, if you do this, because apparently this is about some... Rick has a buddy named Charles who was murdered. Charles had a file which has the location of some plutonium rings, and it's like, if Rick helps get this back, then MI6 and the CIA are willing to let the past be the past and welcome him back from the code. So Rob has double reasons, because, hey, we're trying to stop some terrible weapons falling in the wrong hands, but also, two, she could also help out someone that she had feelings for, which those feelings haven't completely gone away. They're there, still bubbling beneath the surface. So obviously Rick's kind of paranoid because he now knows that she's CIA, so it's like, oh, did they send a familiar face to come kill me? Because that is some spy level stuff of like, yeah, send someone who knows you to get close enough to you so it makes it a little easier for you to get killed, because unfamiliar faces are just going to like keep you on edge, but you might be taken off guard by a familiar face. And I was kind of worried the entire time. I'm like, is Rick going to end up like not being the guy we think he is? Because Rob's willing to trust him. And I was like, please don't let it turn out he's a bad guy or anything. It's like, no. Rick ended up being a stand-up dude all the way through. But when the Rob and him thing starts sparking it, I was like, ooh, but what does that mean about the you and Dante thing? Because that's taken a step forward, but it also took a step back in the past episodes. I mean, they're in a good place now, but as she kind of describes it later on, it's like, yeah, I got a situation back home I still need to figure out, you know? Can't go around gallivanting with an ex-spy who's kind of back in from the cold. So, I mean, I don't know if he's still on the, like, yes, they've forgiven him, but I don't know if he's, like, going back to being a spy or not. To be fair, like, yeah, I'm jumping ahead a little bit, but when he talked about it, he was like, oh, we could be two spies together. It's like, well, for one, she's not a spy anymore, but she still has her connections to the CIA, so I don't know if he, like, full-on went back. And, yeah, that whole spyhood thing doesn't always work out. Once again, we had the True Lie situation, but it's like, yeah, but at least she came into the spy situation with you. I mean, that's after years of not being a part of the spy thing, so that's kind of a different... it's a unique circumstance, and we'll just kind of leave it at that. So, but it's like, yeah, spyhood doesn't allow for the best when it comes to relationships, because it is kind of a relationship where you both have to constantly keep stuff from you, which Rick was like, hey, I'm fine with you telling me as little and as much as possible, because obviously she didn't tell him much about her current life of like, well, to be fair, by the time her and Rick got involved, she already had Delilah, so he never brought her up, so it might be a thing, because it's like, he never knew Robin's real name and didn't know her affiliation with the CIA until after the fact, so she probably never told him about, yeah, I kind of have not only a situation with Dante, there is also a thing of like, not letting you know this, but I do have a teenage daughter back home as well. So, plus all the stuff she does as an equalizer. Like, obviously, it was Rick kind of just interpreted that as like Dante situation, but it's like it's a combination of multiple things. Like, I've got a situation back home, I got to figure out. It's like, well, that's just using Dante, but there is the whole Delilah, Aunt Vi, and Equalizer element of it all with Harry and Mel to kind of figure out as well. So, but anyway, kind of getting into the episode more. They go to one of the places that Charles owned, and there's a lady that moved in. I was kind of suspicious because it seemed like she was looking around and was like, yeah, this lady, we're going to find out. She's not, yep. And Robin ends up taking her, choking her out. So, and I love Rick's line of like, oh no, and you wonder why Americans have such bad reputations. So, but, neither Fisk nor nothing Harry found could identify this woman, so she's not in any, like, database. So it's like, all right, obviously other people have got to be after these plutonium rings as well, but the question is, who? Then there's that, what's his name, Freddy, the gray hat hacker that Harry has beef with, because it's like, yeah, they used to be close enough, but then, like, he did something, he built something by taking some of Harry's code, and it's just kind of like, Harry didn't forgive him for it. I mean, granted, sadly, Freddy ended up getting murdered and tortured for information, so... I don't know why that just makes it even sadder of like, oh, like, no, him and Harry burying the hatchet, because, I don't know, it would have been nice of just having that exchange of like, oh, you think I stole your code? Like, it would have been a funny bit, but it's like, actually kind of just depressing that it's like, oh, like, you know, any forms of burying that hatchet are kind of out the window now, so... We found out why Rick ended up killing Diego is because Diego showed up at the place they were staying, and he assumed, because at the time he didn't know that Rob was CIA, so he thought like, oh, Diego must have found out about me and tried to come kill me, but the person he was actually after was Rob. What I think is interesting too, like, it's just a little detail, we never actually found out who, well, she found out, like, because Langley called her back because our cover was blown, but we never found, like, maybe it's just Diego's connections led him to finding out about it. It feels like that's a significant thing, but maybe it's such an insignificant thing, that's why they didn't answer it, but maybe they'll end up being a larger element to, like, oh, who, like, how did he find out about it? Or maybe it's just kind of, like I said, he's an arms dealer, he has enough connections that he was able to just find out. Maybe he's just kind of, like, paranoid, so he tries to, like, track down info about anyone he does, like, or anyone that's in his vicinity, so maybe, or, because we know they both tried to recruit him, like, not less, Rob tried to get to him first, and he decided, like, well, rather than you try and, like, recruit me, I'm just going to straight up kill you. I have no idea, but Rob's the one he was after, and Rick was like, no matter what, I had to kill him because I needed to make sure you were okay, because he thought, like, hey, this guy's after me, I don't want you to be collateral damage. But by the time he searched the room after shooting Diego, which the moment Diego flung off the side, I was like, oh, he's not dead, is he? Turns out that's not the case. But either way, and that he wasn't dead, that he was still alive. But Rob was already gone by the time he checked the room, and now, once again, in retrospect, well, you're CIA, it makes sense. He was actually trying to gun for you. But for him, it's like, at the end of the day, it doesn't change the fact, even knowing what I know now, I still would have done the same thing, because I wouldn't want him to hurt you or kill you, so... And it is so sad that it's like, right, who knows what they could have been. You know, it's like, right, we weren't all 100% honest with each other. Granted, you knew early on that I was a spy because you figured it out. But that doesn't 100% erase all that we kind of built. You know, it's still there, those feelings. But eventually they track down where the file is, and Diego shows up. Also, the graybeard guy that was following them the entire time, I'm like, what is that about? And then lo and behold, he was sent by Fisk to keep an eye on you. It's like, interesting. Also, Fisk is here because not only he already knew that Diego was, well, he didn't know. He had an inkling that Diego was alive, but he used Rick as bait. And I love the entire time he's calling her a mall cop. And Rick's like, why is he calling you mall cop? And she's like, because he's an ass. It's like, yeah, it's such a dick thing. And once again, it's like, cool, you use my history. Because even she'd asked, like, why me? And then Fisk had said, you know why, and that's what kind of made me go like, oh, does Rob and Rick have history? And lo and behold, so it's like interesting. So it's like, right, you know what their connection is, and you use that to your advantage, knowing that she would want to help out Rick, while also you took advantage of that to try and use Rick as bait. So you suck big time. I figured because it's the title of the episode, Love Hurts, but also they referenced the movie. No, it's like some PI movie, which is actually kind of sweet, where it's like they were watching a PI movie a long time ago, or a while back, and it got stuck in the DVD player, and they had it played over and over again, and it was a thing about a spy having to shoot the woman he loves through like her shoulder just to kill the bad guy behind her, which is, you know, a classic enough move. And the fact is that they found themselves kind of in that situation. I was like, Rob's gonna have to do it, and especially when it's like, just know that love hurts. And so took Diego down, still alive, could take advantage. They're removing him from the board and everything, but I'm sure they could also take advantage of, I'm sure he's going to probably make some kind of deals, because that's how the CIA rolls and everything. So, but yeah, Rob and Rick had to, you know, say their goodbyes. It's like, yeah, he wanted her to come to England with him, but it's obviously not that simple. So it's kind of sad, but it's also like, yeah, let this Dante situation figure itself out, because I'm rooting for you and Dante, because I was like, oh, this is going to complicate things. But it's like, no, nothing happened between them. There were moments when she was talking to Harry that you could see him like touching her face and stuff. I was like, hey, yo, Rick, calm down, my guy, you know. But it's like, yeah, he didn't know about Rob's situation back home, so. But either way, Rob tore into Fisk what he's doing, because it's like, cool, until you learn how to start like being honest with me, this working relationship we have is on kaput. It's like, I'm not going to let you like put me in danger again like that. You know, you give me imperfect information, you get imperfect results, because it's like, yeah, you got Diego, but the file they had is empty. So I guess that's implying like Rob destroyed the location of those plutonium rings, or maybe like she let, because it's like you can't let anyone know, because like the CIA can't be trusted with it, no one could be trusted with the location. So probably had Harry delete the file stuff, maybe, or maybe like she kept the file, so now she knows where it is but no one else does, and she'll keep that secret and make it so that no one else can know. I don't know, either way, Fisk says that moment of just kind of like, all right, good play. I'm like, are you being such a dick to her because this whole thing is a test, because everything's a test for you? I'm like, are you doing this because you want to see if she's... Because he does... It seems like he likes her, but it feels like he puts her in very uncomfortable positions, because I think for him it's like, when you're dealing with spy craft and it's just kind of doing whatever it takes, you know, this is the job. When she doesn't kind of bend to a lot of that standard of how the spy craft stuff handles, because she's not a spy. Yeah, like she has her connections and stuff to it, but at the end of the day, Rob is not directly in that world anymore, and so she handles things her own way. That's not how she does things. So part of me almost feels like he is trying to egg her towards joining the CIA again, and he's just trying to put her through the ringer to really test her character, to prove that she really is worthy, and that maybe who she is, like maybe she could be, I don't know if he's trying to make her like his successor or something like that. I mean, she was Bishop's successor and everything, so... Well, wasn't he originally like at least one of Bishop's successors, just like she was? Either way, it feels like he's playing something, but I don't know. Maybe it's just like him and Rob will forever have a love-hate relationship. Ultimately, you get the feeling like that character's going to die. Like, things aren't going to work out well, and that character's going to die in some shape or form. I have no idea. It just feels like there's something there, and I'm just not quite sure where that storyline with him is going to go. Other than that, this episode, we caught up with Mel and Harry, which Harry points out, like, hey, there's this house that we wanted to get all those years ago, but then I had to kind of go faking my death, so we weren't able to get it, but it's back on the market. Let's go check it out. And I love it. It's like, oh my god, that place could be, this room could be a man cave or a woman cave, or she said, aka an armory. He's like, honey, are you kidding? We could build you a whole shooting range outside. And they're doing like a weird handshake that's like, oh, we've never done that before. They're one of the like, there's like 4 of the couples that are all like trying to get an offer on the place, but they're the only ones that didn't talk about tearing down any walls and changing it too much, at least like probably add on to it, but not destroying what's already there. So because of that, it's like, hey, like, the owner like is really like excited about you guys, so send over the paperwork and everything. It's like cool, except they both hate the place. I was like, oh, that's really cute, because they are very different. Like when they wanted that house, that fit who they were then, but over these past like 5 years or so, they've changed so much. They like their lives now, so they're like, yeah, like, oh my god, also the commute from there to the base, it's like, oh god, that'd be too much. It's like, no. But it's like, oh yeah, can we work on our new handshake? Because the plan was to, when they get to the place and do their new handshake in different rooms. I'm like, hey, yo. So that's a really cute side story in this episode. But another side story to this episode is everything with Delilah. She's getting an internship at a fashion store? And she's really excited about it, and like everything went well, the interview and everything, except the owner wants to put her in the back. I was like, well, it can't be a racism thing because you got Stacy out front, but that's also that thing of like, look, we got a black person working. It's kind of got that energy, and that ends up kind of being the energy that it kind of keeps, because the owner, Rowena, which I'm like, you give Rowena's a bad name, because obviously the Rowena I immediately think of is Rowena from Supernatural. But either way, that Rowena wants that if Delilah's going to work there, she's going to have to work in the back because her braids are too ethnic, which now makes her feel so conflicted about, because initially Stacy tried to highlight, the real reason behind it, because she's like, wait, do I have to start in the back and work my way up? But Stacy eventually told her the truth about what it was. Now it's also understandable why Stacy has her hair straight. Well, the problem is now Delilah's conflicted, because it's like, hey, this woman Rowena has a lot of connections, and she could end up being the means of like helping me get into some of the good prestigious colleges I might be interested in getting into. Plus, it's something I worked hard towards. It's something I really wanted, was getting this internship, and what that can mean about like kind of getting her more in the fashion design world. But it's like, am I willing to compromise my morals and my everything? Because it's like, because yes, it's like, not only is it racist, it is illegal because of like us, because of something like that, just because of like her hair or whatever. Which you'd also think as a fashion place you'd be okay with it, because the reason why she's not okay with it is because in her mind it's too ethnic. It's making it seem like, oh, we're supposed to be so highbrow and so high class. She sees that as less than. But the reason why I was saying like it actually fits so much more, because fashion is meant to represent so many backgrounds and so many different people and shapes and stuff, and shapes, bodies, and sizes, that it's like, right, being able to match outfits with your hair and everything, like, having a different hairstyle will be very representative. Like, oh, it also showcase like, hey, this is someone who does their hair like me, so you could help me, like, an open-minded business person would see like the opportunity of like, hey, you're all broadening my horizons of what I think. But this Rowena was very stuck in her way, and at the end of the day, Vi doesn't want to make the choice for Delilah. She, it's just part of growing up and being an adult, having to make those decisions on your own. But it's like, at the end of the day, make sure it's a decision that you can live with, that you won't have to like compromise, like that you're comfortable dealing with the aftermath of. And she turns down the internship. She wasn't even there to work. She was just there being like, yo, I'm not here. And Rowena came in being like, yo, I thought we said she could be sent to the back. She'd be working in the back. But because Stacy gets it, and she just puts up with Rowena stuff, because it's just kind of that thing of, yeah, you got to take your lumps, like with any business where you're working your way up. And for her, it's like, Rowena gives me so much leeway, allowing my work schedule to balance out with my time at college, especially because I'm still in debt. I'm working off my student loan. Well, I don't know if she paid it off, or I think she might be still in the process of paying it off. So for Stacy, it's like, this job, it's like there's too much in life for me to like have to like start fresh somewhere else. So I don't want to burn this bridge. So when the time came when Delilah was making a point, and the person in the store was like, Rowena, is this true? Rowena was like, no, she's a liar. Ask Stacy. And Stacy took Rowena's side, and you're like, damn, Stacy. It's that thing of, yes, Delilah's in a position where it's like, hey, I'm not going to compromise my beliefs in who I am. I'm not going to like placate someone else's beliefs, and especially when they are in fact in the wrong in this regard. I know I'm in the right, and I'm not going to submit to her racism and illegal thing that she would want me, like, I'm not going to submit to that. And sadly, Stacy is, but it's that thing of, I think Delilah did the right thing for her, and I can't say if I don't think Stacy's doing the right thing on one side of things, but on the other side, I'm like, she's doing what's right for her. She's in the situation, but it's like, are you really willing to kind of put up with that? Like, how, it's like, because your being there helps her co-sign everything that she's like, oh, because it's, once again, it's that thing of, oh, it's not racist or whatever, because Stacy falls in line. Like, it falls into that, like, that nasty territory. And it's like, you co-sign that, like, bad behavior of hers if you let her, like, keep going. Like, unless you stand up to it, it's going to continue. Because she's going to, like, use that as a power play to be like, well, I'm in the right. She could also end up blackballing Stacy, so there's also that. That's why I'm like, so, like, I believe Delilah did what was right for her. Maybe Stacy did what was right for herself. I don't know. She did show up later on. Her hair was styled differently, and it's like, it must be your day off. But she did actually come to apologize, so there is that. But for Delilah, it's like, save your apology for the next person of color you let down. It's like, whew. But Vi and Rob, at the end of the day, are so proud of her for making that decision and doing that. They're like, yeah, you did what was right for you, and that just showed her level of maturity and just showing you how much she's grown, and the fact that she made that decision on her own too. So we'll see if that Stacy stuff ever comes back around in some shape or form. Like, maybe she will leave. Taking Delilah's example, it might just take a while before it finally starts weighing on her. Like, there might be another person just in, like, Delilah's situation that comes around, and the history repeats itself, and maybe just then now finally be enough for Stacy to be like, no, I'm not going to let the next person down. Like, what Delilah said to her, like, her last lines to her, might be the thing that changes Stacy. We never know. It's going to be interesting to see if that's something we ever see come forward again, or maybe that's just kind of the end of that. And, as Delilah kind of figures out what she's going to do else. Maybe she'll just end up finding a internship on somewhere else. That's because, like, yeah, like Vi was saying, that there are other people besides, like, Rowena who have that type of cachet who can, like, help you in the direction Delilah wants to go college-wise and eventually maybe career-wise and stuff, so. I feel like this is the first time we've really heard about, like, her wanting to go down the more, like, fashion stuff for school and stuff. Like, I don't know if we've really heard much about that until now. Because obviously, like, school stuff for her is, it's usually associated with something else going on. It's never, like, the full school stuff itself, So, but this is kind of, like, focusing on, like, finishing up, like, for her, like, senior year and stuff like that. So I just thought that was kind of interesting. Well, I don't know if she actually is a senior, or whether she was talking about, I'm about to go into my senior year, so maybe she's a junior now, or maybe she actually is a senior in high school. I don't know. Either way, I'm very, very interested to ultimately see where all of this ends up taking us going forward into the next episode. But really, that's all I wanted to talk about. Until the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day, and goodbye.